I feel like I need to do a video on this subject, this big major thing that's happening in the news. And what you see here, of course, is a screenshot. And what I'm doing here is just basically giving you a quick video of what's making the headlines, what's making the big headlines. And this is going to truly shock you. I'm going to just scroll on my phone and show you how it's making all the headlines that Donald Trump claims that he can stop the Ukraine-Russian war within 24 hours. Let's scroll through and see how it is making the headlines. See, it's making all the national news, all the mainstream media worldwide. I want to point that out. Worldwide news. So with any war, there has to be a trigger event. Must be a trigger event. Now, Donald Trump, of course, blames this war on or somewhat, he tries to say that Joe Biden isn't doing enough. The trigger event that actually really triggered this war, was when Donald Trump, and you can see the date on this, this was January 23rd, 2020, when this was making the headlines. Donald Trump sold Javelin anti-tank missile systems to Ukraine during his administration. And I want to point this out. It was during the Trump administration when that war began. Not the Biden administration. It was during the Trump administration. And it occurred because of this deal with Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, where Donald Trump had sold missile systems to Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. That's what triggered this event, because of course Putin would be curious as to why Donald Trump would sell an anti-tank missile systems to Ukraine. And this is going to be a very important understanding that you have to realize. Ukraine, and look at the date on this, so you know this dates back to November 15th, 2019, during the Trump administration. That is when this happened. Trump administration approves new sale of anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. October the 1st, 2019. This is the event that triggered that war. Donald Trump knew what he was doing and triggered that war by selling Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky anti-tank missile systems. And let me tell you, let me kind of give you a scenario, if you will, of what this equivocates to. So for Trump to sell these missiles to Zelensky, and vice versa for Zelensky to, let's use this example, for Zelensky to buy missile systems from America through Donald Trump would be equivalent to if Texas, and let me point this out, Zelensky had made it openly known that he wanted to annex himself and Ukraine from Russia. Because, I also want to point out, Ukraine is not separate from Russia. They are a Russian state, no different than how Texas is a state of the United States of America. Ukraine, and actually Ukraine is very similar in size to Texas. This would be no different than if the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, had made it known to the president, say President Biden in these days, say Greg Abbott made it known that he wanted to annex Texas from the United States and hand it over and become a partner with, say, the CCP or China, and then turned around and started buying weapon systems from China. Do you not think that the Biden administration, along with the Pentagon and everybody else, would not immediately set up and take action to stop that? If Greg Abbott so chose to do that, they would immediately take action, and they would immediately take the same exact action that Putin did with Ukraine and Vladimir Zelensky. Ukraine is not its own country. It was only given the status of an independent city-state of Russia after the Soviet Union collapsed. It's not separate. It's not separate, and it has never been separate from Russia. It was only given. Russia's huge. It's massive. It's just a massive country. So after the Soviet Union fell, the powers that be allowed places like Ukraine and Crimea to become their own independent city-states. That's all they are. That's all they were. Not a separate country. They allowed them to be a city-state and have their own president to run it. Ukraine is only about the size of Texas. Just a state within the whole realm of what is known as Russia. Matter of fact, Ukraine, that region, used to be part of what was called and known as the Iron Curtain, because it was a military fortitude that bordered the ocean, the sea. It was a defensive fortitude for that region, which was called the Iron Curtain of Russia. It's not a separate country. Vladimir Zelensky had no power, no authority whatsoever to annex Ukraine from Russia. None. And when he attempted to do that with NATO and then started arming himself through Trump started that, he triggered that event. Russia went in to Ukraine during the Trump administration. In 2019, he went in after Trump sold anti-tank missiles to Zelensky. Trump triggered that event, not Biden. Biden was sent in by Trump as the scapegoat. Biden is only the scapegoat for Donald Trump so that he can make himself look better, make it look like it's all Biden's fault, and then make himself look better so he can come back in as the savior of the world, the savior of America, the false messiah of America. Trump did all of that. Trump triggered that event. Trump allowed it to happen so he could do this right here. So he could do this very thing right here. I'm going to come back and save the world. I'm going to prevent World War III, and I can do it in 24 hours, is what he claims. I can stop the war in 24 hours because I am the savior. I am the false messiah of America, declares Donald Trump, when, in fact, he was the one that triggered the event by selling Ukraine anti-tank missiles. That's a fact. It's all a fact. All the thing is, he depends on the fact that the media cycles, the news media cycles, move so rapidly in these days because of technology and communications. He depends on the fact that news cycles move so fast that people quickly forget that it was in fact Trump that triggered that event by selling weapons. This would be just like if Greg Abbott wanted to annex Texas from America and join China and started buying missile systems from Xi Jinping. It would be the same exact scenario. The Biden administration and the entire country of America would come up in arms against Texas. That's a fact. There is no way. So for any of you who want to follow this narrative that it's all Trump's going to save us, he's your Messiah, know that. He's the one that triggered it. He well knew what he was doing when he did that. He knew it would trigger the event. He's not a dummy. Matter of fact, he's quite very strategically smart as far as do the deeds that will trigger an event, and then throw in Biden there real quick for a quick administration. Let Biden tear the country to pieces, and then come back as the savior. I'll be your savior, when in fact you have policy lag time. Know that. You have lag times in policies. So policies that were passed during the Trump administration, at the end especially of the Trump administration, it takes 6 months to a year for a lot of those policies to take effect, for their effects to be seen. He knew exactly what policies he could pass that would that would make the Biden administration seem like they were just destroying the country. They are, don't get me wrong. Biden is, they're birds of a feather. Trump is just the other side of the Biden coin. That is it. They were never enemies. And all this stuff about Trump, them going after Trump and trying to arrest him and stuff in the news now, it's political theater. It's political theater, just like the impeachments were. I knew he wasn't going to be impeached. Remember, he's the one that helped Nancy Pelosi get reelected as Speaker of the House. At the same time, she was trying to supposedly impeach him. Trump made sure and admitted that he liked Nancy Pelosi, and that he would make sure she got the votes to be reelected as Speaker of the House. And Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were the guests of honor. Know that. They were the guest of honor at Donald Trump and Melania's wedding. They were his guest of honor. Matter of fact, while Trump was still in office, old Billy Clinton went to the golf course and played a round of golf. I got a video on it. Had a round of golf with old Donnie Trump. Donnie and Billy Bob playing on the golf course and doing lewd behavior. I got the picture in that video on my other channel where, to be appropriate about it, Donald Trump took a picture with Billy, his good friend Billy Clinton, and he was fiddling his junk. He was fiddling his downstairs junk in the picture, and they were all laughing and chuckling it up. They're not enemies. They're not. They are best friends, because they're lewd. They're lewd, sick, and evil. Y'all make sure to get this video to anybody who thinks that Trump is somehow the savior and he's going to help save our nation. Let them know that he was the one that triggered the event. He is not a savior in no form or fashion. He is the enemy, part of the enemy's plan to divide and conquer.